right. So again, I'm recording. This is a real life trading, real estate investing show. Tom, I think I hear you right now.
Yeah, I hear you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, my friend. How's everything?
Excellent. Can't complain.
So yeah, we are here. So you're alive. Tom is here, and we're gonna be talking to you guys about Airbnb. So Tom, talk to me a little bit. I want to introduce yourself to the group and see, show us or tell us what you've been doing. You and Noel are killing it. Check your listings; they look all amazing. We're gonna go through them in a little bit, but talk to me a little bit about you guys.
Sure. So I'm actually here with Noel, and yeah, we can tell you a little bit about what we do and how we got there. So we we've been focusing our energy in the last, I would say, 5 years, 4 to 5 years, on developing what we saw as a niche that was not really being taken advantage of in the short-term vacation rental market, and that is a more curated, more special product to offer people today in this kind of like Instagram kind of world that we live in, social media driven world that we live in. Everybody wants a selfie with the neon sign and this type of stuff. We wanted to capture that audience that we saw were really not being targeted as effectively as we think that they should have been, and try to get them to be our clients. And I think that we've been somewhat successful in that, and that's a lot of it has to do with the way we approach short-term vacation rentals. We see it as an operational business, and a little bit approach it less as a real estate investment. So I think that the big thing I want to kind of just outlay from the front is that people coming into this business tend to think about it as a real estate play. But it's more than that. It's a business. It's the same way as if you owned let's say a strip mall, and you decided, hey, I'm going to open up a laundromat. Well, that's a business. You have to understand how to operate it. And it's the same thing with this. So a lot of people want to get into this space because it's growing, obviously, and everything that's happening right now over the last couple of years especially has caused even more demand in this space. And it is filled with pitfalls. And if you're coming to this game with thoughts and experiences for managing, let's say, long-term traditional rental units, it's a different animal. This is a hospitality business. And I think Noel can expand on that a little bit. And if you want, we could talk a little about how we, our backgrounds and how we got here. But I think that's the meat, I think, of what we want to tell people who want to get into this space. That this is a business. Awesome. It's not purely a real estate play. It has a lot of aspects of real estate. So.
Correct. You're not sitting down every month to collect a check at the end of the month. This is an active business, I can imagine. So, Noel, you want to talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I think the other thing that we realized when we were initially looking at the business was that not only is there a design-driven aspect that we think comes into play that really impacts the bottom line, but there's a guest service aspect of things, that's not only... It's changed a lot in the last 10 or 15 years.
Matured.
So it's matured.
Yes.
So originally when Airbnb was started, even by Brian Chesky, he started Airbnb as sort of he was renting a room in his house. There was a lot of couch surfing or renting a room originally, and then it really escalated into a full-blown hospitality business. And so we don't run it like a traditional Airbnb. Not even by today's standards. We really run it more like a boutique hotel. So there's curated lists of places to visit, inside of the homes, on our website, on our social media. And then also we answer, guests immediately. It's I'm off after 6 and it's just an Airbnb. I'm not a hotel. We really act like a hotel and like a boutique hotel. And we really elevated that level of service. And we think that makes a huge impact on our reviews. And in the end, a huge impact on our bottom line.
So, in top of just having an outstanding presentation, you guys give your host an experience, basically. Because I mean, I'm seeing
Correct.
that you guys give all the referrals, where to go, what to do, and if you're on top of it, you're making their vacation experience, a complete package. So that's probably what's selling so well. Which is, one of the questions I've been asked a lot is why it's different real estate than this is the actual management. I'm sure it has to be day in and day out. And like you're saying, if they have an issue at 2 o'clock in the morning, you have to respond to the issue, correct? So what are the major difference? Do you guys do it on your own? Do you have a management company? How does that work?
So we are the management company.
Okay.
The more steps and the more contractors, let's say, or vendors you have in between you and your client, the less agile you can be to your guests, your clients. And in this space, this is a big mistake that people who come from the long term rental market, traditional markets, they don't understand the differences. So I'll give you a perfect example. So let's say there's a 3-bedroom home with 2 bathrooms, and one of the toilets gets clogged. All right. Let's say I managed this rental, I had an annual tenant in there. I can tell that tenant, listen, I'm going to send a handyman in 3-4 days from now to take care of it. You got the other bathroom. In this space, I need to send somebody to address that issue immediately, or else I'm returning people's money, which is the least of my worries. I mean, obviously we don't want to do that because that's what we're trying to do here. But the biggest exposure I have is negative exposure to the algorithm. So exactly. Mm-hmm. So the ratings, they're important here because the ratings affect our algorithm, how the algorithm at the OTA level. The OTAs are Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com. The ratings affect where we are in the search, how far they push us up on the list. So just like Google, you want to be on that first 3 or 4 results. That's it. You don't want to be number 7 on page 3, and that's a big determination whether or not you're going to be successful in this or not.
And another huge part of that is, you take an Uber somewhere and you see that, that Uber driver probably has thousands of reviews. We've been operating for 5 years now, and you can see on Airbnb we have 465 reviews. Right.
They're heavily weighted. They affect us greatly.
Correct.
So the Uber driver can, just be a punk to you and not treat you well, and he'll take that 1-star review. But if I get a 1-star review, that affects me. That weighs down my average greatly. So everything has to be perfect. There is no hair on the mattress. There is no excuses. We execute things perfectly, not because we want the 5 stars, but we want to be up in the algorithm. We want to be the first result in a search when people search for properties in our markets, and that's kind of the whole game here.
And something you don't realize is 1-star review, you have to get 25 5-star reviews
to work back up.
Make up for that 25-star review.
Yeah.
Wow. So that sounds like a lot of work. So let me be a little bit blunt. How much money can anyone make with, doing short-term rentals in Airbnb? Because it sounds like it's a lot of stuff to do.
Right. So I would tell you this. You can make significantly more money. I would say, our cap rates without debt service, right? You can see something around a 23 to 27% cap rate. If you're operating, that's kind of what we're looking at when we're operating at full blast, right? But again, going back to what I said in the beginning, this is a business. So, it's not something that you can kind of I have a 4-plex in downtown Miami, I can just chill and get the rent. And, there's an issue, I'll send a handyman in a couple of days. This is every day. Like right now, while we're talking to you, we're getting messages from our cleaning team, our inspectors that come inspect the units before we have check-ins at 4 o'clock today, for instance. We are constantly working. And that's what it takes. So yeah, the returns are excellent, but the work is hard. And you have to be willing to sacrifice that if you want to do that. If you don't, and there's people, I know a lot of people in this game. I know a lot of people in this space. And there's some people who are okay with getting, 14 cap, which is again excellent. It's an excellent return, but they're running their businesses without the Superhost rating. They're running like 3.7 stars, and they're okay with it. I'm not.
And is there any point where the system kicks you out or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So there's a point where if you get too many negative reviews, Airbnb will just kick you out. Also, you're off the system. You'll get a notification saying that's it, you're out.
Perfect.
And we do it a couple different ways.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
We do it a couple different ways. So some of the homes that we manage, we arbitrage, which basically means we pay the owner a flat monthly rate, and we pay for things like cable, landscaping, any guest damages, costs. Right? Any of the carrying costs. And then we also have agreements with owners where we are solely the property manager, which means we take a percentage of the rental rate, pay for all of their own carrying costs. And so there's two different models for us, and both are lucrative. It just depends on how you want to look at it.
It depends on also, this space, because we operate mostly in Broward County, right? So in South Florida and Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, MSA. And in this market, there was some questions about what is the best market to kind of operate in. Well, we have a lot of people in this market that have second homes. They live up north and they come here during the winter, and their homes are just not generating income for them in the months that they're not using them or the times they're not using them. Well, that's a great market to operate in the management scenario, where you manage the property for them, and they can use it and take it off market whenever they want. And they're basically, depending on the
days they want to be here, and the rest. Yeah,
correct.
Basically, they block the dates they want to be here, and then the rest of the time, the money, the property producing money for them. I want to clarify a little bit about arbitrage. Might be a term that not everybody's so used to it. So can you explain a little bit better? So my understanding is that you go and rent a property, as a monthly lease, regular monthly, and then you re-rent on top of it to guests. So you make it nice and pretty, like Samsung, and then you do the daily rental. Is there any ups or downs, positives or cons, or any issues legally on arbitrage?
Sure. I mean, the space is full of pitfalls. So each arbitrage contract, depending on the market conditions, I mean, right now, I don't have to tell you guys what's happening in real estate in South Florida, but in general, like depending on the market conditions, is negotiated on a case-by-case basis. And depending on when you got into it and who the landlord is, you're gonna come to some concessions, or they're gonna come to some concessions. Very much like a commercial lease, where you have rental concessions for build out, you have tenant improvements, and so on and so forth. So and that affects also the base rate. So, and there's some scenarios, for instance, and I'll expand a little bit on this, but there's some scenarios where it's like a principal lease where the owner gets a base rate plus a bonus, a percentage above and beyond a certain landmark gets hit in our gross profits. There's all kinds of things you can do to negotiate with people to get into that scenario. So arbitrage as a whole, right? Just to take a kind of overview of what that is. Basically, instead of getting into the financing of real estate and these things, which is difficult in this space, ever since the financial crisis, lending institutions have really focused their business model on the secondary. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, so sorry about that. So ever since the financial crisis, we've had a scenario where most mortgage originators, most banks, what they're doing is they're immediately selling their residential mortgage packages to the secondary market.
Correct.
They're not portfolioing any of this stuff. So if it doesn't fit into their box of primary resident, this credit rating, this condition of home, they're just not. They don't have to take the risk. There's so many people looking for mortgages that they don't take the risk. So in a traditional scenario where you're out there trying to buy homes to turn into Airbnb, there's all kinds of issues. You're going to end up paying higher interest because you're going to end up with a portfolio lender. That's not always bad. There's some national portfolio lenders that do service this space and are very good, but still there's a lot of money up front, and you can't grow your business unless you have very deep pockets very rapidly. So the arbitrage is good because you don't have to do that. You're just renting a home for somebody who is aware of what you're doing. Obviously, we disclose everything. There's agreements. They know everything. There's nothing hidden about it. That's a big mistake that people coming into the space do. They think they're going to rent it and not tell the landlord what they're doing. I can't think of a stupider thing to do, but people do this. We have online community forums, or we talk amongst, and all the time you get these stories. My landlord found out. The HOA found out. What are you doing? But
trust me.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to do their own thing.
Right.
I know.
Right.
I would also argue that we are better tenants than long-term tenants. We're in the houses. Yeah, we're inside the houses.
We take care of the homes.
Right. Once
we make them perfect.
It's in our interest to make sure the paint is perfect, the plumbing is perfect, the AC filters are being changed regularly, the light bulbs are changed. It's in our interest to keep the homes in the best condition possible.
Correct. So the arbitrage allows us to grow fast. It gives. A lot of landlords are standoffish about it because of bad press about short-term vacation rentals and parties and this type of stuff and liability. But if you get a somebody who's using the home half the year or a portion of the year and it's just sitting here, they're open to that. They're open to that. So you can also formulate the arbitrage where you're renting it in months where they're not using it and it's yours. There's all kinds of things you can do in arbitrage. Basically, you're not buying the home. You're renting the home and then re-letting it or subletting it on a secondary short-term vacation rental market through the OTAs. The OTAs are, Airbnb is the one everybody knows.
And then obviously there's more risk on your side. When COVID hit for us, we were responsible for paying rent to those owners during that time frame when either the city was regulating us and we couldn't rent it, or there were restrictions on when we could rent it. So there's obviously more risk involved in arbitrage at times as well.
And one of the biggest risks is in this environment right now where, rents are insane and there's lines at the door for tenants. You have to, most of the time, do the build out yourself, meaning the owner of the property is not going to help you with tenant improvements. They're not going to repaint the unit the way you want it. They're not going to do the cosmetic stuff that you want inside. They're not going to give you beds. They're not going to give you televisions. You got to spend like $20,000 on doing all that.
Yeah, that's part of your business expense, basically making the house, a great experience. Perfect. I got a couple of questions here in the chat. First, Cindy was asking, are you guys looking for luxury and service, right? So basically, they want the whole luxury experience. Is there any? And let me add this with another question that I have. What would be the top 3 mistakes that people do when doing Airbnbs?
The top 3 mistakes that people do, operators do. I would say one of the first mistakes is what I kind of alluded in the beginning. They come to this thinking this is just a real estate an offspring of an annual tenant scenario. I've had tenants before. I know how to deal with them. This is a hospitality business, so they have to come with a mindset in the beginning. That's number one. That this is a business and this is not the long-term rental market. So that's the first thing. You have to come to this and not make that mistake. A lot of people make that mistake. The second mistake is that they negotiate their arbitrage leases poorly. They don't have exit points in case this doesn't work. they don't do their numbers. It's the usual mistake people do when they have
They're rushing something.
when they want to do a deal and they're looking at all the positives and they're not looking at all the negatives. They're not looking at what happens if the economy collapses. Like what happens if 2007-8 the financial crisis happens again. You have to be ready, because if you don't have the ability to carry 3 or 4 of these, let's say your carrying cost is $7,000 a month for a 3-bedroom home. If you don't have the ability to carry 3 of those
on your own
rental payments, you're in trouble. So you have to formulate your agreements with your landlords, who are really your partners in a way, giving you exit points that are reasonable and fair to everybody should something occur where this doesn't work out. That's another huge mistake that people make in this. The third, and one of the most important things, is that, and this is something we struggle with, I think, all the time in this business, is you need to have an amazing cleaning team. Your cleaning team are your most important part of this thing, because
imagine
they're your eyes and ears. They see the tenants come in, they see them leave. Sometimes they see how the condition of the unit. They can smell the units, and if you're not physically at these units every turnover, every time somebody comes out and in to them, they are the ones for you. They're doing that for you. So you need a good cleaning team. You can't do this by remote control without somebody you 100% trust that is committed to this.
They're more of a business partner.
Correct.
It's less of somebody that works for you or with you. They're really more of a business partner, because so much of your reviews and your income rely on the job that they're doing.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Do you guys have?
So I want to add a little bit to that, and add a little bit of a question to that, if you would. So obviously you talked about protecting yourself, right, and having some exit points. Can you dig in a little bit into that, Tom? I'm sure, like you even mentioned 2020, at least the beginning of it.
Sure.
What are some of those safety points that you guys built in there? If you could dig in a little bit to that.
So like everything in this, it's a negotiation, and it's points that are negotiated with landlords. If a landlord is not willing to give me an exit point, the rent has to be like super like cheap, or like it has to be a ridiculously good deal. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a this for that. So if, let's say, like there wasn't any exit points, right, and you couldn't get out of it, but the rent for was like $1 a month, yeah, I do it. You know what I mean? Like we would all do it, right? So it's a this for that. But generally speaking, there's some red lines. My first red line, and it's in all my arbitrage agreements, is that if the local municipality or the state municipality or any government makes any executive action or laws or rules making an operation of a short-term rental unprofitable, I'm out. I'm out. We shake hands. All deposits are returned to me, and I'm out. Because there's a lot of cities right now that are experiencing this, especially with the housing crisis. They're turning on vacation rentals right now. I think incorrectly, but that's another discussion that we can have. But you have places where you have operators that suddenly are not allowed to operate. Their leases. A lot of people are in the arbitrage game, and suddenly the city council of Houston makes it that you can't have vacation rentals unless you're an owner occupant or something like that. Well, what happens if you have 100 units in that MSA? Yeah. So you have to have some exit points. That's one of them that I can think of. There's some others. Talks about profitability. Like that's one that I love to have. Sometimes it's not possible to put it in there. But I basically put it in there. If I'm running this business and 3, 4, 5 months in, I see I'm not making any money, you shake hands, I give you a deposit back, I bring the unit to the condition that you had it in. And if you'd like, I'm a broker as well. I'll pay without a commission, we'll put a tenant that you approve of in the property. So there's different ways of handling it.
Yeah, another stopgap that we put in place is that if the owner won't keep up with the maintenance that they're responsible for, that's something else that we also use as a way to get out of a contract. So say, for example, they don't want to repair broken appliances. There's a leak in the roof. There's an ongoing plumbing
Roof leak is a big one. Yeah.
We have to be able to get out of that lease because it's not being maintained in the way that we need it to be maintained in order to rent it on a short-term basis.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I got another quick
that's actually
question.
really interesting. I like that a lot. That is, if I'm understanding it correctly, guys, it's almost like a modified net lease on a commercial property where landlord is responsible for very few of the structures, and then you guys come in and handle everything else within the run your business.
Yeah, and again, it depends on the current real estate market environment that we're in. In the current environment, that's what it is. But I mean, things are moving so quickly. I don't have to tell you guys. It's crazy out there across the any financial anything with money is nuts right now. So it's kind of hard to be able to kind of say, all right, this has been working for us in the last 2, 3, 4 months. Will it work right now? It's nuts. So yeah, I mean, typically it's very much like that. But it could be different. It also it's not something that you can talk about, as a macro. It really is, local, kind of one by one, case by case, personality by personality kind of thing. You have a lot of people who are also adverse to liability, and that's a big one. People who are they're so scared of people tripping and falling on their property and suing them. That's another one. So they're adverse to that. Once they get to that, that's a big hurdle for people to kind of overcome. And we found deals that blew up because of that before in the past. When we tried to reason with them, said, look, you're protected. Here's how you're protected from that. Everything is negotiated on a case by case. It's not like it is sort of like a commercial lease, and it's not at the same time. So does that kind of give you a little bit?
Absolutely, that's great. I take it takes a lot of you educating, obviously, the homeowners and getting them up to everything. And it sounds like you guys obviously pay a premium above market rent so long as the terms fit your needs.
Absolutely,
and you have your safety net. So it's a huge benefit to the homeowner. And like Noel mentioned, you guys are going to be better tenants than half tenants, the tenants out there in the world. It's in your best interest to keep this thing looking fantastic, like what Louis is showing us on the screen right now, which you guys obviously do a great job at. Looks like Mike has a good question here. Lou, if you want to take that.
Yeah. The other question Mike is having, it's do you have any issues when there's arbitrage in a homeowners association? I know particularly down in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Broward, Miami, Palm Beach, homeowners association are a pain. Do you guys have any issues with arbitrage there, or you just, for what I was able to see, seems to be that you have no properties in homeowners associations? Is that correct?
So I can, correct. Yeah, that's correct. So I can answer that. We don't have any problems with homeowner association because we steer as far as we can away from them. Because I can't. That's the fourth hint. I have to tell you about it. Fourth mistake: never, ever, ever buy or get into a arbitrage lease in a condominium or a homeowner association, even if the HOA or the condominium allows short-term rentals. Why? Because the homeowner association governing bodies can change. They can change rules. The rules and regulations can change at any time. They can call a meeting and say no more vacation rentals, no more short-term rentals. You have to be an owner occupant, and you can't base your business on a condo commando. You can't be in the hands of a homeowner association. I mean, we're down here in South Florida, and it's a cutthroat business. We've been through all kinds of blackmail, all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of craziness down here of people understanding what you're doing, thinking you're making a ton of money and wanting a piece of the action. That's also when an HOA or somebody knows you're doing that and you're operating in an HOA, they think you're making a lot of money. You can get a neighbor saying, hey, if you don't give me this or that or this or do this, I'm going to go to the board and complain about you. There's all kinds of stuff.
I've seen somebody set up an entire $2 million property furnished, ready to go, went to rent it against the HOA policies. They never even read them. So it happens all the time down here. So yeah run.
Yeah, I'm familiar with associations down here in South Florida, because I guess I've been here all my life, and I know they want to get into your business all the time. So Mike, do run away from anything with a homeowners association. That's the best suggestion you can get today. Another question I got for you guys. We've been talking, and I'm showing here Airbnbs, platforms. Is anyone better than the other? Is anyone stronger? Is there anyone that pays better? What about the platforms? I know there's Vrbo, there's Listkey, there's Airbnb, obviously. What else is out there that is worth it?
So I would say we definitely prefer Airbnb over all of them. The big reasons are number one, they have something called AirCover, which basically allows you to file a claim for any damage. And generally speaking, as long as you're documenting your cleanings and you're documenting the damage in the way that you should, and you can submit that to them in a timely manner, they will pay you out on that damage most of the time.
They're good with that.
Yeah, they're
very good with that.
They are,
yeah.
And there's certainly been cases where they should have and they did not. But that seems to have improved and gotten better with time. The other thing about Airbnb is that they are their own payment processor, which means if somebody books an Airbnb last minute using a fraudulent card, and they come and they stay and they leave, and they charge back that card, Airbnb takes the hit. We don't take the hit. So there's a lot of security in that for us. The other thing that we love about Airbnb is, another simple reason is the usability of their platform. It's much more intuitive than all of the other platforms. And for our type of home that is more design driven, I think we see more of our demographic is more of a millennial demographic. And younger. And I think most of those people are on Airbnb as opposed to Vrbo, as opposed to Booking.com. Booking.com in particular is more of an international, demographic and guest. But yeah, definitely Airbnb.
Perfect. I'm just going while you guys are talking. I'm going through the listings, and then there's got another question for you guys. What are the top 3 features or things that you need to have in one of your listings? Because I see some of them have pools, some of them are not. So it's not the pool. It's what features on the property. It's something that it should catch your attention, and this is the correct one. This is the right one.
I mean, ideally, you do want a pool. For sure, that is the number one most sought after amenity, especially here in South Florida.
In South Florida, yeah.
Yeah. In South Florida, yes.
If you can get a pool, if you can do an arbitrage deal with a pool, go for it. You're going to make more money, period. People want a vacation. They want to have that, the hard seltzer, the high noon, by the pool. They want that. They want that South Florida kind of idea. And we have homes that don't have pools that are successful, but definitely the pool homes are giving us a much higher ROI, I would say. That's number one.
You also want to think about the usability of the property. So you have to know, the regulatory apparatus that's in place. You have to know how many people you can sleep. There's certain cities, cities within Fort Lauderdale that restrict that. And then there's certain areas that are more lenient with it. So that impacts your bottom line quite a bit. If I can sleep 10 versus 8 versus 6,
Hello? I think I lost you there. Noel, Tom?
Yeah, I think they went silent there for a little bit. Maybe having a connection issue.
It's not it's not a mediocre sleep sofa with a 4-inch mattress that's creaky, that's kind of a pain in the butt to sleep on. It's comfortable, it's usable, and people don't mind being in those common areas.
I'm sorry, Noel. We lost you there for like a good
Okay.
40 seconds.
Sorry.
Sorry,
So
guys.
the
No, it's
sofa-
okay. It's okay. Right after the regulatory bodies and being able to sleep 5 versus 10, you
Yeah.
cut out for a little bit.
Yep. I also mentioned just the usability of the property itself. So just the difference of having like a sleep sofa that's a modular sofa that maybe isn't a sleep sofa with like a 4-inch creaky mattress.
Mhm.
Maybe it's something that's
Yeah, they're having problems with the connection. But
it
I
just
guess
makes it.
she's trying. There you go. There you go. Hello.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? We had a little hiccup there.
No, yeah, we lost you there, but I believe we heard you. So top 3 must-have features. Obviously, number 1 is the pool. Number 2 is the ability to maximize the number of people that you sleep, and number 3 was comfortable usability of the different rooms and the different areas of the property. If I heard that correctly, that kind of sounds like it was your top 3 features.
Yeah, and it's a lot about layering in those little things, making sure that there's a cooler to bring to the beach and beach towels, and we provide locally roasted coffee. It's those little tiny touches that maybe if the house doesn't have all the amenities that you wish it did, we make it as comfortable and as desirable as possible.
Yeah, you're up in
You're
the wow.
very, very service oriented. You guys, from everything that I keep hearing in your description, it's not your standard Airbnb. Just come in and get in and get out, and you may or may not be comfortable. It may or may not be clean. You guys, a lot of your success, from what I'm hearing, comes from your attention to those details and your ability to wow your tenants away. I guess, or your renters. They're not tenants, right?
They're guests.
They call them guests. They're guests.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's accurate.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so the other thing I want to do is I got your listings here. Do you want to run us a little bit through what you have, what you offer, what have been challenges in a few of them, so that you have overcome? Basically, I went through the maps. They're all in the South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area. The good thing with Fort Lauderdale, bad thing, they're all a bunch of older homes, 50s, 60s, but like we mentioned, they're very close to the beach and not as homeowners associations. So do you want to walk us around one of them or two of them that you prefer or you want to talk about?
Sure. So I'd like to kind of add something to the common thread that all these homes have. And that's they're not in the ritziest, nicest, poshest areas of town, right? And they're not like in the worst parts of town either. And the reason we focus on that is because if you go to like the fingers off, let's say on by the beach, like where people have yacht access and the homes are millions of dollars, you're going to start getting resistance from the neighbor.
Okay. Lost you there. So probably getting resistance for the neighbors because the neighbors don't want to have
that would make perfect sense.
personnel,
Exactly.
rotating people,
we just write those off. We don't want to be in that market environment. It's too risky. I don't want to. I could do it. I could arbitrage a home and pay $20,000.
I lost you again.
Work in an environment where your neighbors hate you. You don't want to be that. So in the kind of like in between neighborhoods, you get very little resistance from the neighbors. They're okay with it. You're making the home look nice. And the other thing is we are very, very good at stopping bad guests, let's call them, people who are going to party or park all over the grass or be negative to the neighborhood. We're good at blocking those people from booking with us. So that
they're having a problem with the connection. So what I see is that they're using basically it's middle of the ground. So
that's a big thing as an overall arching kind of thing. It's like our properties are not in the heart of like Millionaire Row in these towns.
And
And
we would prefer.
our connection is unstable.
Can you
Our
guys hear me?
connection is unstable. I'm sorry about
Yeah,
that. Can you hear us?
yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, we're on Starlink. We're on that Elon Musk Starlink thing. So
Oh, watch out now. We
Yeah.
got a
Blame
bunch of
Elon.
we
Elon
gotta
fans.
write a letter.
Elon.
Yeah,
Careful now. There's a lot of Elon fans around here, so
yeah. No, we're big fans. That's why we got it.
let's not bash him too hard. We might get shut down.
So
The whole show might come to an end soon if we go too hard.
Yeah,
on Mr. Elon.
exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, we absolutely kind of got the gist of it. So to kind of dig in on that location factor of it, guys. So you guys, if you're in Fort Lauderdale, and then Lou mentioned mostly closer to the beach. So let's talk about that Broward County area. That's your backyard, your main domain. Are you guys pretty much all east of 95 from what I can see? Okay, and a lot of it even east of US 1. So you definitely want real close access to the best thing to do here in South Florida, which is the beach, right?
Yeah.
You do,
Yeah.
yeah. But to Tom's point, you really want to be in like an up and coming neighborhood. You don't want to be in the best neighborhood. There's a lot that comes with that. And sometimes it's just not worth it. And also, you know, you can buy a $2 million property on the beach and try to rent that. But if you buy a property that, you know, maybe it's a 3-bedroom with a pool, 2-bathroom, that's a little bit further west, you may, you know, for the money that you put into it, it may be a better return on investment as opposed to something that's closer to the beach, more highly regulated. Maybe your maximum night occupancy is different. So I think that, you know, I would prefer to be in that up and coming neighborhood in a home that's maybe a little bit less expensive, and be the value proposition, and sort of speak to the masses versus a $2, $3, $4 million home on the water, where, you know, I have bigger gaps and maybe I'm filling it at a higher. For us, it just doesn't make sense.
From an arbitrage perspective, from a management perspective, I don't care.
Yeah, fair.
Right. So like that's the other side of that business model. So I mean, we'll take them, you know, if you want us to manage them, but you know, I won't take the financial risk of getting into those kind of situations with an arbitrage deal.
But generally speaking,
if you got a homeowner who's got one of these multi-million-dollar homes, you'll still help them with the management side of it, but it doesn't interest you as an arbitrage play because of the fee.
Too much risk.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make it a guest house basically. You just get a regular tenant in there and manage it regularly.
Sure.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's say one of the listeners wants to start with this. The first step will be deciding if they want to go into the hospitality business. So basically what you're saying is the hospitality, the cleaning, and the service to the guest is the top priority here. From then, it's okay. If they still want to do this, let's go ahead and find out a property. So the next situation will be going to the cities and trying to find out what will be some the requirements for an Airbnb, which ones are more flexible than others. Does it run by county, runs by city? How does it really work?
Well, I would say it's the other way around. The first thing you want to do is check if the whole thing is legal. So you have a layer of different regulatory bodies you have to deal with. One of the states have their own regulations. For instance, the Division of Business and Professional Regulations, the state of Florida issues us our general license. So we've got a license at the state level to operate. We have a collective license, so it allows us to operate up to 75 units under that collective license. But if you're just starting out, you would need a different license. But still, you need to go through a process to get I'm talking about Florida here. You would have to get approved on the state level with Florida. Then you take a next step down. There's the county requirements. You would need whatever your particular county, your jurisdiction. You need to make sure it's kosher over there and what they require of you. So, for instance, here in Broward County, you need several things. The first thing you need is a business tax receipt. because you're operating a business in the county. And you also need a mechanism to collect the tourism tax that the county collects, unless you use OTA that remit that directly. So you need to understand the relationship between what the OTA, what Airbnb, VRBO, what their agreement is with your county for the tourism tax. So each county is different. And there's lawsuits that kind of hash that out. And each OTA is different because each one got sued or didn't get sued yet by the particular county. Basically, that's what it comes down to. And you get hashed out how that's going to, yeah. And then you have the city level, then that's really the nitty gritty, because you have a lot of cities that aren't very friendly to this. And you have cities that are super friendly, like Fort Lauderdale. They love us because they get a lot of money from their level of tourism tax. They make money off this, and the permitting and everything else. There's a cost to all this. It's not free, so they like it. And I will say this: the city of Fort Lauderdale has been, for what it is, has been very good to work with, as opposed to some other cities. So that's kind of also why we like it here. It's an environment that welcomes us, as opposed to an environment that you're fighting to work in, like New York City, for instance.
So get familiar with the regulatory apparatus in the region that you're thinking about getting into Airbnb. That's a huge part of it.
First thing.
Should be the first step.
First thing you do.
And then look at the real estate market.
Okay. So then look at the real estate market and figure out then numbers wise. Let's say I rent a property. How much will be that per night? Is any kind of rule or a rule of thumb that I can do? Okay, let's say I rent this for $1,000, so my night should be $100. Or I rent this for $1,500, my night should be $3,000. Is there any rule of thumb that can go to how to make sure, or at least have an idea of the pros and cons if you're going to be profitable before you spend any money, or how to make those calculations? I'm sure there's a lot of hidden costs too.
So there is no rule of thumb. It's not. You have to have experience in order to hone that correctly. There are some ways you can get assistance in getting that, but it's very market specific. It's also event specific. If you're in a market that has constant sporting events that people are coming to, or conventions that people are coming to, or if it's very seasonal, you have to know that, and you have to factor that in to your gross profits in order to be able to tell after your projected expenses what you think you're going to make. Now there's some software that we pay a lot of money to that helps us with our pricing. It's dynamic. It works a lot like the airline industry, where it's constantly changing depending on demand. There's all kind of algorithms and metrics that they use from they tap into the back end of the hotel businesses booking systems, and they can tell when the hotels are booking a lot to raise our prices. And if there's special events, like right now we had Rolling Loud like a couple of weekends ago, last weekend, so our rates fluctuated up here in the neighborhood. You have to know these things to price it correctly. If you're making a guess, just a best guesstimate, you're not going to make money in this. You need to really do your homework about pricing. You need outside help. You need to use all the tools at your disposal to be able to correctly price these units, and also project out these units to be able to tell what your projected income is going to be. And that's the gamble. That's really like with every business, you're going to project, you're going to open up a store or whatever, or a restaurant or whatever business you're projecting. It's projections.
Yeah,
you really know.
Exactly.
So the best thing to do is really drill into your comps, and then that's going to change week to week. So a house that I'm renting for $125 a night right now, for New Year's Eve, I might rent it for $800 a night. So it's incredibly seasonal. I would say probably 50% of the income that you're seeing is really brought in, during high season, which is usually from December through the middle of April. So it's incredibly seasonal, and it varies greatly.
Yeah, let's clarify that, because in South Florida, basically it's from Thanksgiving to Labor Day, to Memorial Day. That's when everybody comes down, everybody loves
Sure.
it there, and right after Memorial Day, everybody goes away because it becomes,
Yep.
Sure.
And there's some soft spots in there too that you sort of start to recognize as you run the business year after year. Like it tends to get a little bit slower the first couple of weeks of May, or it tends to get a little bit slower right after New Year's. So you want to be able to price appropriately and react quickly to that, sort of ever-changing price point. Another really great tool, a lot of people use AirDNA, which is a really well-known
DNA.
AirDNA. It's a comms tool that can help you project out. There's another one that we really like, Rabu. It's a new one.
RABBU.
RABBU, Air as in Airbnb, AirDNA, not RDNA.
Oh, AirDNA.
Yeah. That AirDNA, not B like boy, D like David. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's one. Rabu is another one. They're all, they all add to the overall pot of information that allows you to place your chips on the table in a better gamble, let's say. So, these things are not going to give you the answers. They're just going to give you more information. But
correct.
They're
give
good.
you data for you to understand.
Right. And these are really good tools if you want to go in and you want to start just a property management company and you don't want to do any arbitration. Every single client that you go to sign a contract is going to ask you, how much can I make? You have to know how to utilize these tools and what this looks like from a seasonality aspect to drill into those numbers and give them some sort of an idea and tell them I'm not guessing. This is based on comps. These are based on real numbers.
Perfect. And these are real numbers coming directly
from
Airbnb.
Question. And please feel free to share as much detail or as little as you'd like on that. What is the average property management fee for short-term rental?
It's usually between 20 and 25%. It used to be higher. This market is particularly saturated, and I think that's made it a much more competitive market in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years. So that number has dropped. So I've seen people sign anywhere from 33% to 18% for the same service.
Right, but it depends a lot about what the manager is bringing to the table and what they're paying for. Right. So is the manager paying for the shampoos, for the conditioners, for the cleaning equipment? So there's a lot of there's a new kind of trend of nationalized management companies. I forgot the name. Vacasa is one of them. They offer short-term vacation rental management on a national level, and you pay them nothing. You pay them like 17% or something. Vacasa, like vacation. VICASA. Yeah. I believe that's it, or Vacasa.
Yeah, but every time somebody from Vacasa is going into your property, they're charging you. They're nickel and diming.
So they're nickel and diming you. So they're charging you 17% management fee, but then there's all these ancillary fees that you're paying. So there's all kinds of things, but at the end of the day, it's about between 20 and 30% ish is what the standard. And to be honest with you, if you're first getting into this game, maybe that's the best way to go. You give this to a good property manager, a smaller one, not one of these big kind of hide behind a phone tree company. You have the cell phone of the person that's running the thing, the cell phone number, and you kind of learn from there how they're managing it. I think that's a great way to start this because, again, this is a business and it's not you're gambling with a lot of money. You can screw up very easily here if you don't know what you're doing. So sometimes it's worth it. Yeah, right. You don't want to. It's worth it. It's worth giving that 30%. You learn it. You see if you even want to get involved in it. You see if you want to commit yourself to this stuff. And if you like it, you can even co-host. There's a thing called co-host where you basically maybe you give your management company less responsibilities and they just handle some of the like the booking responsibilities, and you pay them a much smaller commission, 7%,
Yes,
5%.
I've seen like a 7 to 10%
7 to
booking
10%
rate. Just
booking rate, just as a booking agent. You're a booking agent for us. So, and it's a good way to start. I highly recommend anybody getting into this space to reach out to a property manager and, and start that way. That's a good way to give you a little bit of security net at first, and you'll still be okay with the profits. It's not like, and you'll have more time to grow your business because, like I said, and like you've been hearing from us, this is a full.
And I would say if you're coming at it as a property owner looking for a management company, I would ask that management company, how often are you specifically going into my property? How
touching the homes?
How often are your eyes on my property? Because you see a lot of these companies, as they get bigger, these property managers are not going into the homes, and the quality of the service and the quality of the maintenance and the home overall, it really suffers because of that. So I think it's that type of thing where it's not something that you can scale easily. And there are tricks to doing that, by the way. But I think finding a boutique property management company in the area where you're looking to invest and have a home that's a vacation rental is really helpful. And that's the way to go.
Okay, I got a quick question.
I'm glad that you guys said that.
Because we were going to go there. I got a quick question. Let's say I'm looking for one. When I find an Airbnb that I like, has great reviews, usually it's the host. It's gonna be them. But in case the host is you guys, but is the host a person? The host is a person, or the host is gonna be a company? How does it work? Let's say you got a bad review. The bad review stays with my property. The bad review stays with the property management. What happens if I fire someone? Is my property affected or not? That will be kind of the question
So one of the big perks of hiring a management company like us, for instance, is you inherit all of our ratings because we put the home under our account. Perfect. So you already start off with 5-star rating as a company across the board, average rating, which is huge.
It won't show on your listing.
It won't show up on your listing.
But what it will say is, look at this is an experienced host.
Just like what you're looking at now. Just like what you're seeing now. Right.
So redirect.
So that's a huge plus. And our agreements with our arbitrage units and our management units is that we're the ones. It goes under our account. So we also suffer from it. So if there's a bad review, it's on us. And what we're offering is not just the management, but it's our kind of our reputation which is our reviews from guests.
Correct.
That's what you're buying into. You're piggybacking on our reviews.
Now, say you decide that you're going to ask us to vacation rent your home, and we're managing your property, and you list under our profile, and you have 25 5-star reviews under our profile. When you leave us to go to a different management company, you don't take those reviews with you. Those reviews go away, and
they get erased.
They get erased. Right, and the new property management company rebuilds your listing and starts from scratch. That's almost always the case.
Oh, okay, good to know. Good to know. Because let's say I'm doing it by myself and I'm not getting the traction that I need. I give it to a property management, which you guys know exactly what you're doing, and then my reviews, whatever it's my history is going to be gone. Technically, Perfect. That's amazing. Hector, you wanted to say something?
I did. I wanted to circle back to that point about hiring a professional. One thing that we always strongly suggest to new and beginning investors, we have a large audience of professionals and investors who either trade the stock market or invest in real estate. But we also have an audience of those that are just getting started and want to dip their toes in these things, or maybe they want to buy a second home or a vacation home in another state, and they want to be able to cash flow on that a little bit and offset some of their expenses. And so you guys made a really, really good point about hiring a professional. And I want to just drill into that. This is a business of systems, of strategies, and most importantly, I think you guys drilled on it like a million times, is hospitality, is service. You from another state responding to your tenants' needs the next day, that went out the window. Your hospitality went out the window, and the guy couldn't figure out how to work the TV remote. A professional is going to jump on it. It's going to take care of it. It's going to protect your investment, if you would. You know, if you're investing and you're actually buying or arbitraging this thing, you want to give yourself the best chance of success. And like Tom said, if you want to little by little take over those responsibilities as you go learning, that's even a smart strategy. I prefer to just let a professional, I believe there's a professional for each profession, and they should be let alone to do their job. I'm an investor. I'm going to invest, and I'm going to let a professional like you manage my Airbnb or my properties or whatnot.
Exactly.
So that's
what I recommend.
A really good one. Yeah. That's a really, really, really good point. And I wanted to stress that, but I just wanted to.
Next one.
So is that point that you made about the profile and the history, is that standard across the board when I give my property to XYZ manager? Is it always on the profile, or is that something unique to the guest house collection?
Generally speaking, that's most of the time the case, is that it's going to be listed under their profile. If you decide that, like you see just from us speaking, you can cut it a million different ways, and you can say to somebody, say you want to I want to speak to all my own guests. I know my house. I want to communicate with them. I want to start my own Airbnb profile, and I want you to be a co-host. You handle all of the on-the-ground operational work, and I'll handle all of the communication. You can cut it that way. In that case, you have your own Airbnb profile. That person is just acting as a boots on the ground type of a person that's really handling everything that you can't do because maybe you're not local or maybe you just don't want to. So in that case, you could keep your Airbnb profile and you could always change your co-host.
Yep, you can do that. But I mean, you wouldn't be buying into that management company's reviews, which is huge. Not again, because we tend to think of this stuff like, Uber Eats reviews or or Lyft reviews. It's not like that. It weighs a lot on the algorithm. So, you can start out with a brand new unit with no reviews and be like on page 58 of like Airbnb search results, which you don't want to do that. Even though they help you out, give you a little boost in the beginning, you're, a company like ours, we already have vested reviews, invested people who have been with us and years of a track record. Airbnb is pushing our reviews. There's metric software that we can see that. We can actually go on the back end and see where we are in the search results within Airbnb, Vrbo, and so on. And we're pushed all the way up on the top all the time. That's big. So that's worth it.
And it goes so much deeper than that on things that we could never even dive into to really fully understand. But one example is our software, our property management software, which we use Guesty for hosts, by the way. We originally had, started with Your Porter, but it was acquired by Guesty. And so that particular software, it actually goes in and it will change the order of our photos once a day.
Bump us up,
or put a period in our description and then take it out. Because Airbnb, part of that algorithm of pushing you up in that search is it wants to see that you're constantly updating your listings. Another example, Vrbo, when you list with Vrbo, there's an option to opt in to giving a discount to your first 3 guests, I believe is what it is. And when you opt into that, it skyrockets you right up in the search, and it pushes your listing to the top. So there's all these little different tricks that your professional host will know that in the end are going to help you greatly.
They're going to help me greatly, yeah, absolutely. I got to be honest, I'm one of those. I'm one of the ones that I've been using Airbnb since forever. If it's not a super host, I just won't book it. That's it, because I know there's a peace of mind and there's an extra here just by being a super host.
You're right. Great peace of mind. And when you're spending that much money on a vacation, You don't want to be guessing. You don't want to show up to a house that doesn't have AC or isn't comfortable,
Right.
or you can't get a hold of anybody. It's so
And
frustrating.
that happens all the time.
Yeah. In a sense, you're guaranteeing that your experience is going to be amazing just by looking at this and looking at
Sure.
the rating. So, which is
And
exactly
that-
what you want on vacation.
Yes, and Airbnb makes it hard to earn that Superhost badge. It is not easy. There's a bunch of metrics you got to hit in order to get that and sustain it. And when Airbnb gives somebody a Superhost badge, you're pretty much guaranteed a good experience. So that goes across the board, not just for us, for all Superhosts out there.
Okay. All right. So next thing I wanted to ask you guys, and basically it goes again with property management, but how do you guys spot a troubled tenant? If something that you can pick up right now, I'm sure just like
Good one.
with
That's a good
long-term real estate, there's everybody has histories. So how do you spot something that's going to become an issue before it becomes an issue?
Something that jumps out initially is if they're booking last minute. A lot of times with fraudulent activity in particular, especially if they have a stolen credit card that they're using, and if you're the payment processor, for example, if they're booking on Vrbo or Booking.com, and you're responsible for that chargeback, if they charge back that card, they want to book last minute because they don't want you to catch on to the fact that it's a stolen credit card that somehow gets reported over the next 3-4 days. By the time it gets reported, they're out, they've trashed your house, and you're stuck with, $1,000 in damages. You're eating the cleaning fee. So a last minute guest, we're always quite skeptical, especially if they don't have any reviews, just joined the platform.
Is local. That's a big one.
Local. That's another huge one because a lot of times they're
Parties.
Right. But a lot of times you can see that, people have reviews and it is hit or miss. I mean, sometimes we have a last minute local guest.
It's wonderful. Nope. That Starlink is not working properly again. All right, so
let me text Elon. Let me
Most
text
of the morning.
Elon real quick. Sorry, guys, we lost you there for like 10 seconds. I was texting Elon.
Yeah, Elon. I see it now. Sorry. Guys. Yeah.
So when guests initially book our homes on Airbnb, there's an option for a pop-up, and it says to them, our home is meant for rest and relaxation. This is not a party home. We operate our business in a residential area. If you're here to party, this is not the home for you. And that tends to stave off, I think, quite a bit of that unsavory activity.
Plus, the Instabook feature is turned off on our end unless you, as a guest, have at least a certain number of reviews and so on and so forth.
And
certain age,
submitted an ID.
Identification.
I don't have.
Oh, nice. That's very.
That's very smart.
Some really good safeguards. Yeah, absolutely. Because I was gonna say you guys would probably deny me because I'm that last minute guy that when I travel, oftentimes I'm booking my where I'm staying at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon because I've just been working on a business.
Us too.
It's a real vacation.
We're the same way. We do the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But that's why
I have all the other stuff. I have my picture and all that other stuff done. So at least it's me. And I usually will send a little message or something. Hey, traveling for business, blah, blah, blah. So I haven't yet gotten denied, but I want to make a better point to spruce up my profile now that you guys said that.
Well, and you know what? We love those guests that are booking last minute because we want to fill those midweek occupants, those midweek days that happen to be sitting vacant. That's the difference between, hey, we just covered our, and they got it at a very inexpensive rate, but we covered, our Xfinity bill for the month, or we covered the plumbing, the water bill for the month. So, that we love those bookings, and most of the time they're wonderful. But yeah, it's definitely something you have to keep your eyes peeled for.
Perfect. Those are those bill payers, like we call it around.
Yeah, truly.
We're all traders, so we call it a bill paying trade. In this case, that's the bill paying guest.
Yep.
The other thing that I was going to ask you guys, it's there's something that it's been kind of in the back of my mind. I know in Florida, after 30 days, the guests become stable. Basically, they become a tenant in your
Yeah,
property.
tenant
You
rights.
guys,
Correct.
huh? Do you guys
They become
limit the
tenants, yeah.
amount of time people stay? Do you guys have some kind of control over that? Do you care about it? How does it work? Because I
So
know that works very locally. You know, I know we're talking about Florida. In other states might be different, but it might be a similar issue.
it's definitely a big issue. So we don't allow stays automatic booking without our approval for longer than 28 days. Why 28? Because 28 nights, I'm sorry. Why 28 and not 30? Because you can fight in court whether the bookend days count as days or nights, and we don't want to do that. So it's not 30. With us, it's 28. Like it's 28 days maximum. Period. If you want to stay with us longer, we'd be happy to talk to you about a long-term lease. We would draft a lease with you. You would sign a lease agreement, and you would have tenant rights, and we would have to evict you if there'd be issues. But it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to go with long-term leases because you would have to make it very lucrative for us to take our property off the market for that extent amount of time, because we get our rates are dynamic, and on the weekends we get a lot more than midweek, for instance. It would be cost prohibitive for most people to book unless they had to have it and are well off. We don't get that often. During the lockdowns, it's different scenario. It's a different time, and we're willing to do that. But our system does not allow you to book longer than 28 days without my direct approval.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because again, I know it's a Florida issue, but I'm sure some of the states might have tenancy rules or whatever. So yeah, that's very smart. So you won't have a person that books there forever, and then you have a professional tenant decides to stay in your home for months and months at a time, fighting you in court. Yeah, we all been here with those stories.
Yeah, there's a story of some guy in New York, in Manhattan, that did that like professionally. He would book like Airbnbs, become like a tenant, and then would spend like a year and a half, 2 years fighting in court to try to get him out. Like this guy did this a couple times. I forget his name, but anyway,
it's not in our interest to do it in the end because we would rather. Because most of those people say, "Hey, I'm staying 28 days. Can I have a discount because I'm staying for so long?"
Yeah, it's
for
not
us,
in our interest. It's
better to book it, over the weekends and be able to see the house.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are ears and eyes on the house every day, or every time there's a booking, pretty much. Every time there's a cleanup, everybody leaves and comes back in. You guys are in the house.
We prefer shorter stays at a higher price point.
Perfect.
That makes a lot of sense, because like you said, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. There might be a special event, there might be something that's going to drive up your pricing, and then let's not talk about the legal cost of having to evict somebody and the time that it takes and all the money you lost. So I can definitely see how that would be a good business practice on your end, and a great tip for anyone out there considering ignoring our advice to hire a professional manager and, hey, I'm just going to do it on my own. If you take nothing else, take that, cap it at the 28 days, 27 days. Don't go over the 30, so you don't wind up having to 90 day or a 4-month eviction.
And it's hard because, like what Tom said, it really depends on the state that you're in. So I think California, it's after 7 days or something ridiculous like that. I mean, that's a lot of the time that you're booking your house, you're booking for 7 days. So that can get scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's always politics involved in certain areas that we're not going to go there. That's a whole nother show.
Other show.
But you have to know, and you have to protect yourself.
Correct.
Sure.
Exactly. And you do that by hiring a property manager. That's the end of the conversation. That's exactly what I want to drill into everybody. Okay, so let me see if there's any questions in the chat. Anybody has a question last minute? It's we're still about 20 minutes for wrapping it up. We got a lot of people here today, but no questions. All right. So the other thing is,
Actually, I got a quick question.
go ahead.
Tom, earlier you mentioned obviously the benefit to arbitrage is that you get to scale. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right, a lot faster. You can deploy the same amount of capital into various properties and outfitting those properties versus just buying one or giving a down payment on one or two properties, right? But can you dig in a little bit more into your preference between buying and arbitraging? And then if you are buying, you mentioned some of those potential financing options. If you could throw a couple of those out there for the audience that might be interested in going the buying route.
Yeah, I mean, buying. There's nothing wrong with buying. I think that people who are coming for the approach of buying a unit to do this, or a couple units, or whatever it is, are again, they're coming more from the background of a traditional real estate investment. When I'm seeing it as a business, I'm seeing it. I came from that world of real estate, but I realize that to me it's a business, and I don't really care if I own it or not. I care about making money. Period. So the pitfalls of ownership, I don't have to tell you about all the pitfalls of ownership, roof leaks, and all kinds of stuff that I'm not responsible for as a tenant. I have tenant rights myself, and I enjoy those rights. I don't have to worry about a busted washing machine. I don't have to worry about all kinds of things. The general upkeep of the property. I don't have to outlay cash for down payment so my cap rate is affected by it, or my bottom line is affected by it. But if you want to enter that space and you decided, no, I'm looking to increase the equity I have in real estate, and I want to, I think you have to approach it as two separate businesses. One of them is a real estate play, and the other one is a hospitality play. So your real estate play should be a real estate play. You should look at yourself as the tenant that's going to be arbitraging from yourself. So does it work for you? Can you always go back and rent it long term should something occur and make money? That's the biggest thing I would say. If you're going to buy a piece of property, think about it as separate yourself from the business of short-term vacation rentals, STRs, and look at it as a long-term, as you can I fall back and long-term rent it and still make like a 7 cap that I'm okay with? You know what I mean? And if that works, that I would tell you that's a rule of thumb. I don't do deals in real estate, period, that I can't make a minimum of 7 cap. I don't care about the growth, the potential for that, unless it's something really cheap or, crazy deal. Generally speaking, those don't exist, because the market dictates the price. And I would tell you that you have to make the numbers work as a long-term, in a scenario where you have to put in a long-term tenant in there. If you can get yourself a 7 cap, do the deal. And you'll make more money vacation renting it, theoretically, if you know what you're doing, or you get a great manager. But you can always fall back on long-term renting it. And don't lie to your banks. Tell the bank what you're doing. You're going to pay a higher interest rate. They're going to tell you they can't give you the loan. You're going to have to go to, because you can't base your business on untruth. Let's call them. That's politically correct these days, right? Like you can't base your business on lies. The foundation has to be honest to everyone. So you have to be honest with yourself, with the bank, and what you're doing, with your insurance company, what you're doing, because you don't want to get a letter from the insurance company saying, hey, we're terminating your homeowner's insurance. Therefore, the acceleration clause is going to kick in on your mortgage because you can't get, homeowner's insurance because you violated the terms of your policy. You don't want that. You don't want to base a business on that. You want to make the numbers realistic scenarios. You can do worst case scenarios. I like to operate in the real world, so I would say that's important.
I was going to say that we're working your worst case scenario, and if the thing can float and can make money, whatever, in worst case, then start thinking about it. Because if not, there's always pitfalls if you know what you're doing when you're starting. So ideally, yes, if you can make money again as a regular rental, for sure, go for it, and then try to scale it up. But it seems to me that it's a lot of work. So it might be, maybe you can do the one, maybe you can do the second one, but it comes down to the
Right.
third one, then you are, your hands are tied because you cannot be at the two places at the same time to, prep a house for a guest coming in the same day. It seems like
It's going to start.
trying to stretch yourself.
It's going to start chipping into your, regular job, whatever that is. Like it's this is a job. We're sitting here talking to you. My phone is blowing up. This is a full-time job, and it runs all the time. We get messages at 3:00 in the morning from guests. We get it's all the time. So it's not what it used to be when it first started. When Chesky first started Airbnb back in the day, he was renting out basically
like
a room in his and that's kind of what it was. You went to IKEA, you got yourself like the cheap IKEA bed that everybody got and whatever, and you put it on there, threw a couple of pictures. That's the past. Now it's a competitive environment with all kind of software. Like it's like trading. You have to be on top of your game in order to be successful in this. This is not kind of do it like half-ass and get away with it. You could do it and get lucky. You know what I mean? There's always luck. When the market rises, everybody floats. But when it doesn't, you have to survive.
When the tide goes out, we all know the rest of that.
Yep. Yep.
And something that we really took into account when we were building the business is how do we scale it in a way, because it's so labor intensive, how do we scale it in a way that makes sense? So every property has the same TV in every room.
Right.
It has the same remote. It has the same Wi-Fi password.
The
same thermostat.
So everything is homogenized for scaling. Everything is, we think about it like if we're going to open up like a restaurant that we wanted to franchise, everything is scalable. There's no, oh, wait, what TV is in that house that's not working? How do we tell them to set it to the right input? We already know. We made videos. We send them a YouTube video how to do it. Like you have to be able to scale.
No, and I'm seeing also, guys, you're in a 10-minute, 15-minute tops radius. It's perfect in that sense.
Yeah.
If anything happens, you're immediately right there.
Yeah.
So let me ask that. Was that done by design as well? Are you guys looking to stay local, or are you guys just decided, hey, this is where we're going to start because it's our backyard? Obviously, Tom, you being a GC, you have a gazillion connections in that realm with taking care of things. Or is it just something that you rather just be, like Louis said, 15 minutes away from your command center, so to speak?
Well, it's both. So, being able, like I said before, like Noel was talking about, being able to be in the properties a lot is ourselves. We have a team that works underneath of us that manages the actual day-to-day, and they're in the houses, but I'm also in these homes, right? So having the proximity to us helps tremendously. And it also, this is like running a hotel with, 8 different hotel rooms miles away from each other. So yeah, it's kind of, it's good to have them in a geographically close area. You're able to be able to have the same cleaning team, strike the same deals with maintenance crews. Like you're going to do all of our portfolio in this area. There's all kinds of benefits that we can get into, but you get the gist of having them close to from a business side. And the other side is the ability to the market here is getting away from us. What's happening right now, with rents, hopefully, I don't mean to be pessimistic or negative, but I hope there's going to be some softening to the rental market because it's just crazy. What we're going through right now in the rental market as a general. And I have a long-term I have domain property management.
Lost you.
Game. I have to break people's hearts and raise their rents by a lot right now. And for me, I'm faced with, do I strike deals right now and continue to grow the business locally because of what's happening with the rents? So yeah, we're now moving past South Florida. we're looking to expand into other markets where the numbers kind of, and the risk reward factors kind of make more sense. We're looking also to homogenize things and localize things even more. So we're talking about, there's a concept, I think I talked to you, Hector, briefly about Airstream, vintage Airstream park that we're working on. Right now, we're looking at a piece of property in Arizona to do it on, where basically it's an Airbnb type product, but we'll have 25 units, all vintage Airstream, restored vintage Airstreams, and they can all be checked into independently without having to talk to anyone, all done remotely as far as check in and check out. And we can manage them more effectively, almost like a hotel. So
Sure.
we can scale by having a team. And when we do 25 or 30 units, we can hire a local manager, a local maintenance team, local cleaning team, and have them on payroll out there doing it. So that's kind of where we're taking the company right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that to me, and there's absolutely some scalability when you're doing it that way. That I can't wait for you to finish that project out so I can go stay there. It sounds like
you guys are invited,
man. I'm very much looking forward to coming out and checking it out. Lou, I think Cindy had a really good question.
Cindy has a question. What about theme styles as far as decor? Something that people are looking for? If each house has a different theme, or not necessarily?
So for us, we started, you saw the captain's quarters as you were scrolling through the properties. That was our first property that we designed. And the reason that we designed it that way is because it speaks to the local culture. This is Fort Lauderdale's known as the Venice of America. There's a ton of boating here and a ton of just, activities to do on the water. So it made sense regionally with what was happening within our city. And it spoke to that. I don't think you necessarily need to be themed, but I think overall there should be a design language that translates through throughout the entire home. And I think that, I know that we are getting a higher return on these design driven properties versus say that property had a bunch of, plain IKEA beds and, white bedspreads and, some generic art on the wall that I got from Home Goods.
You mean the live, laugh, love?
Yeah. This is much more fun to stay in. It's not a place that you want to live, right? I mean, you certainly don't want to live in a house that looks like that, but it's a bit of, we call it an adventure home.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it's a real experience. And when people are going through Airbnb, you have to remember a lot of these houses look the same. You want to stand out among the competition, especially in our market where the next block, there's 3 more Airbnbs that you can stay at.
Absolutely. And that definitely is a testament to the fantastic job that you're doing, because you guys are not just surviving in a really, really brutal market, you're thriving. So that's amazing. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. So let me ask, what does the next 5 years look like for the Guest House Collection, for Tom and Noel and your multiple businesses and your growth? Talk to us about what the future holds for you guys. Obviously, I believe you guys just got married, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Congrats, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly love this business. We want to stay in this business. And I think if the right opportunity presents itself here in Fort Lauderdale, we're certainly, willing to take on those opportunities. For us, we're really interested in other markets, like Tom said. We're hoping to, develop something out west and something that's a little bit more interesting now that we feel like we have a taste for what this business entails and we understand the hospitality business more than we did, say, 5 years ago. I think we want to apply that to more of a hotel-like setting.
Right. We're ready to scale fast at this point. So we come to the point where, taking on another 1 or 2 or 3 houses is definitely something that we want to do. And we want to continue down that path and continue to grow the Guest House Collection here locally. But we also want to scale more rapidly take 20, 30 units and put them online fast. And just the current environment, the real estate environment here doesn't lend that opportunity without taking significant risks. So out west, where the zoning and land use code is a little bit more liberal, allows us to do what we want to do without, we can do these things that we want to do without the regulatory apparatus coming down on us. And we can scale. And there's a huge demand out there. The national parks right now are super busy. Many of them moved to a reservation-based system because there's so many people trying to get into them. It's not just COVID that did it. Many Americans are rediscovering the national parks and the beauty of the West. And we want to tap into that. We are still, open to this concept in other locations, including Florida. The issue with Florida is we have hurricanes and the heat. It's a little bit of a problem when you want to do an airstream camp. So it creates a little logistical issues, but we have focused on some areas in Central Florida to do this as well, in the Lake County area, in a place called Mount Dora, if anybody's familiar with, or Claremont. Beautiful. Yeah. So it has the proximity of Disney. You can still get to Disney within 45 minutes. Family friendly, and it's inland enough where the hurricanes won't affect it that much. So we're looking in that area as well, but it's expensive. I can buy 10 acres of land in Williams, Arizona for $15,000. And I'm an hour from the Grand Canyon. And I'm not in the middle of nowhere. There's like a Whole Foods an hour away, or 40, and an hour there is worth driving. It's beautiful. It's not like the Turnpike. So
it's not like I-95 at 3 p.m.
Nah, it's not 95 South. You want to get in the car and drive those canyons to Flagstaff or to Kanab, Utah, which is not far. You want to experience that. So we're looking out there. The risk reward is there. Those areas, you have a lot of people who moved there from California in the last couple of years, and they brought that California flavor there, which is, it's nice. There's edginess to it. There's still, it's cool. It's not all, Dollar Generals and Walmarts. It's a cool place. You want to spend time there. You're next to the parks, and we want to kind of concentrate on that, show a proof of concept, show that it's working, and then grow our investor base to come with us to more markets. And initially we targeted the Woodstock area of upstate New York, but there was too much risk there with the regulatory apparatus and unknowns. We had to hire a bunch of attorneys and engineers just to get an answer to see if it's even possible to do it. Those are risks. We don't want to get into that.
Again, the same way you would with Airbnbs, you're looking at the regulatory apparatus. For us, the property that we were specifically looking at happened to be on water, and that water fed into the
one of the reservoirs.
Right, one of the reservoirs, and it fed New York City the drinking water, and highly, highly regulated. And so obviously that's always the first look, but I think out west, we love it out there, and we think there's real opportunity out there.
Yes, sir. The West is the best, right?
Oh boy. I don't know about that, but I fully agree that there's a lot of opportunities out west. I'm a South Florida guy, so I'll stick to
I tried. I just won't let me.
You just got to put on a cowboy hat and come try it, man. It's cool.
There you go.
Get you a nice horse.
That's awesome, though. That sounds like a really good game plan. And I love how you guys are taking the long-term view and following the trends, but also the politics, because it does affect us as investors, and we have to be mindful of it. We don't have to be fearful of it or anything. It's just like you said, I think Tom said it earlier, is educated investing. Don't just go out there, close your eyes, and I love this property, make an emotional decision.
Yeah,
and it's easy to do that, especially in this business, because your heart has to be in it when you're available 24/7, and it's so labor intensive, and so you have to. It's easy to make an emotional decision, but 100% you have to look at it.
And it's one of the things we drill to everybody that we listen to us. It's like, do not fall in love with the property. Don't fall in love with the property land. Just fall in love with the numbers. If the numbers make sense,
yes.
If the numbers don't make sense, get back and look somewhere else.
Yep.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so very much. It was amazing. We learned a lot. We're pretty much done here. I think Yates should be somewhere around, hiding behind his microphone, and he's taking it over to. What you gonna do now, man? I think he's doing some back training, probably.
I do want to go ahead and take a quick second to thank Tom and Noel, guys, for coming out, sharing this amazing knowledge. You guys just dropped so many good tips and so much knowledge that whether someone is, beginning or has been doing this for several months or years, I'm sure they got a lot out of it. Thank you so much. Tom just threw out a website there for the camp concept too, if you want to throw it up.
Any questions?
Yes, please reach out to Tom and Noel directly, theguesthousecollection.com, info@theguesthousecollection.com. As you heard today, they're extremely knowledgeable. They know what they're talking about, and they're doing it successfully. So please reach out. There's not enough good things that I can say about these amazing people. Thank you guys so much for sharing your time with us this afternoon.
Thank you guys for having us.
We're here to help anyone. So
Absolutely.
any questions, you don't ask us. We're here to help.
Perfect. Thank you guys very, very, very much.